Hey everybody, this is Amber Key, and you're listening to a Bright Idea podcast, a show where I sit down with entrepreneurs to discuss the aha moments that launched their businesses. On today's episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Ken Sandy, founder and CEO of Dryy, a DC-based laundry and dry cleaning service. Dryy is a revolutionized dry cleaning business that offers a multi-service channel to meet their customers at their preferred method, whether it be technology through their dry drop laundry lockers located in over 400 apartment communities in DC, in person at one of their retail drop stores, or through their valet services straight to your home. Ken grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and after graduating from Virginia Commonwealth University, he did what a lot of us do, jump on the corporate America train. After managing call centers and working with a freight logistics company, he was ultimately laid off. In his mid-40s, Ken decided it was time to take matters into his own hands and start a marketing agency, which led him to the dry cleaning lockers we now know as Dryy today. During 2020, when a lot of businesses were shutting down, Dryy ramped it up, disrupting the traditional industry of dry cleaning by finding a way to meet their customers where they are. In this episode, Ken shares how he's taken an innovative approach to the traditional dry cleaning model, making it more relevant and appealing to modern consumers, and how his passion for entrepreneurship and commitment to social responsibility is what makes Dryy stand out. Before we dive in, if you love what we're doing here at A Bright Idea, help us keep going. You can subscribe to this show to get notifications when new episodes drop. If you like what you hear, share the episode with someone who needs a little inspiration. And if you'd like to support the show directly, you can donate to our Cash App at A Bright Idea Podcast. Lastly, if you're a business owner or a brand looking to connect with our growing audience, we'd love to collaborate with you. You can sponsor an ad within one of our episodes or sponsor an entire episode. Just reach out to learn more. Now let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Ken Sandy of Dryy. Ken Sandy from Dryy, how are you today?
I'm great, Amber. Good morning. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this today.
Yes, I knew that we were aligned because we both decided to meet at 8 a.m. for this call. And I was like, he's an early bird like me. Let's go.
Yeah, that's right. So it's gave me inspiration to find a fellow early riser.
Hey, I'm sure you get so much done by like 12 while everyone else is like kind of getting started.
A little earlier, from like 5:45 till about 9 a.m. I really crank it out.
Yeah. What do you like? What's your morning routine? Do you wake up? Do you work out? Do you what do you do?
I'm in this so for my friend Amy Jo Martin out in Austin, she's got a platform called Renegade and Why Not Now. So this whole year I am challenging myself on why not now. And it doesn't have to be all business related. It doesn't have to mean that I'm launching new software. It could just mean that I am doing less screen time, that I am waking up and not reaching for the laptop and the phone. So yes, it starts with a little breathing, keeping it simple because the small things work for me. A little stretching, a little exercise before I get out the door.
Yeah. How's that working for you? Like with the less screen time when you're a business owner and all the things.
Yeah. I keep it super, super transparent. So I'll have a great week and then I'll just blow it the next week. So it just gives me more room for possibilities and to get it right. So, but I am very, very focused on it. And it does make a difference.
That's awesome. And I think because you have the awareness, you can okay, I've been on my phone for a while. Let me bring it back.
Burnout's real, and if you don't hear it, your body will let you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen to it, basically. Yeah. Well, good. Well, again, so excited to talk to you today. But before we get into the conversation, I really would love for the listeners to learn a little bit about you before Dryy, outside of your business. So I want to play a little game called Rapid Fire with you real quick.
Okay.
So you can answer as quick or as honest as you would like, but let's get into it. So what is something that is unrelated to your business that you're obsessed with right now?
My physique, working out.
Okay. Yeah. Are you cardio guy, lifting? What are you into?
Combination. Yep. I'm in my early 50s, so it's real.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I hear that. What is the most unusual thing that you've been asked to dry clean? Not you, or you guys have gotten.
A dog bed that was super soiled.
Well, were you guys able to get the smell out?
We were. It's just, it's pretty disgusting. Unfortunately, it just goes with the territory. People think this is pretty and another brand sexy, but it's a very nasty business.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too, is like, do you guys have parameters? Like, we can't take your super soiled clothes.
Yeah,
Like,
it
yeah.
really gets into like the pathogens and the biohazmat stuff, but like I hate to say it, the bed bugs, the all the things that are disgusting, we can treat.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grow up, and how far is it from what you're doing now?
Wow, light years. I love this question and I love answering it. I want it to be on Broadway and I want it to be a superstar and just like all of the off Broadway.
Dude,
Very true.
you wanted
Yeah,
to be an actor. What
I
was it about Broadway?
did. Just, I don't know. I could be authentic. I could be bold. I could be present. I could be accepted. I could be a winner.
Yeah.
I love entertaining at the time, I thought. But yeah, that was I saw that for myself. Unfortunately, that just wasn't my path, but yeah.
That's crazy. Well, it's funny. I've always been into theater as well. I come from a big theater family.
Yeah.
And I find that now in my day job is sales, and I think that the skills are transferable because you are always on, but also like being able to just put yourself out there and kind of go into another character depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You could probably take a class or something
Yeah.
to get that fix.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm always on stage.
Yeah, exactly. I really love that.
Yeah.
What is one small thing in your daily routine that makes your life easier or better?
Time blocking.
Teach me. What do you do?
Yes. Well, I'm really good now differentiating what I really must get done versus what can kind of wait. And I really struggled with that most of my career, personally and professionally. But I had a professional coach that really broke it down, and it's a really simple formula. I use a piece of paper, I draw a line down the middle, and I do facts and maybe some speculation, and anything that falls into the fact category, I time block and I make sure that's what I get done daily. And so if I don't do that, I don't get much done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then this is my last one. If you could create a playlist for your entrepreneurial journey, what's the first song that would be on this playlist?
Oh God. You're really testing me. We are champions. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, solid classic. So
Yeah.
we'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for playing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But I want to like kind of go back into your background a little bit. I want you to tell us, where you're from, and talk to us a little bit about your upbringing.
Richmond, Virginia, was where I was born and raised, and so I came up on the south side of Richmond predominantly. Pretty middle-class family that actually came from super humble beginnings. Mom and dad worked hard, provided a pretty stable home. And then off to college, right? So we did the VCU thing for 4 years, business administration, kind of business management was my forte after my father. And then after college, I just set out to like follow the corporate the climb. And at that time in life, there was a big centralization going on with the call centers, and they were centralizing everything, like all of the auto insurance and the health insurance. And so I found about a 10-year run managing call centers on like metrics and quality and how to do both, and finding that happy medium and setting service standards. So that I knew I was really destined for service and solution. And then my path has been anything but straight. It's high level B2B sales. I've had a few bold swings along the way.
Yeah.
Staffing, travel. I've tried business adventures before. Most of them failed and did not stick. But one thing's for sure: every move was fed with fire, I believe. And I've just always had an itch for business ownership. And, win or fail, I think I'm built for the game. And so, it's here I am with Dryy and a couple of other entities in restoration and some other things. So
did you grow up with a family? I know you said your family came from super humble beginnings, but did you grow up with business being a big part of your family?
I watched my father probably be one of the most incredible, and I'm partial, right? But that one of the most incredible entrepreneur mindset people I've ever met. And I just watched him never really take off and make a lot of money for other people and have the most incredible ideas that he didn't launch, that somebody came behind him and launched. And I just remember there was just no shortage of that. So I think he instilled that in me, and to be sufficient, super independent, and most importantly, resilient. Now I see that. I didn't then. I was always like, man, he just was always so close. Right. So Yes, but I never experienced it with him. I think I have been the pioneer that jumped out and really did what my predecessors, grandfather and father, really probably wanted to do.
I love that. And so you mentioned that you went to VCU. Right after VCU, you started going into the call centers.
Yeah.
Was that just, you kind of talked about there was this emphasis on corporate, and that was kind of the path that you took, but did you believe
Yeah.
that you were going to stay there? Did you what was your, I
That's
feel
such
like
a
it's so hard coming out of college too, to really
yeah.
know exactly what you're going to do.
It's a great question. And so at that time, that things are very traditional in era, and it was get a corporate job, look at your health benefits, get a 401k,
Yeah.
find a company that gives you a 100% match. I mean, those were the things that we sought after, and
Yeah.
we thought we were winning. And at that point, like entrepreneurs really trendy now. Like people are really learning that you can really do whatever you want and start a business. We didn't have that platform as much. So entrepreneurship wasn't a focus. It was very scary. I didn't have a lot of examples, like being self-sufficient and responsible for payroll and vision and strategy and infrastructure.
Yeah.
Those things seem so far away. But thankfully, through some of my own attempts and working with some other real serial entrepreneurs, it just goes back to that adage, man. You put yourself around that, and it just will blossom. And it's funny. I had a few people along the way say, if you ever figure it out, Ken, if you ever really figure out that you are destined to be an entrepreneur, you will take off. And thankfully, that happened in my early 40s.
But what was the bug, I guess? Like when you were working in corporate,
Yeah.
and you're doing this job, like were you like
It was just
dying on the inside? Like
yes,
what?
effortless. Like I was always really good, right? I always got to every promotion. I hit every goal. I hit every metric. I led great teams. We had fun. But when I look back now, it was pretty dark. Like it was just lonely.
Yeah.
It just was not fulfilling. And it wasn't really challenging. I could do those things very easy.
Yeah.
And I just have to be challenged, by the way.
So what was your plan on getting out?
Yeah, I didn't have one. Just was going to be a big talker, probably somebody that's always committing to I have to work on myself and I have to take the leap. And I probably would have never taken the leap. After it was if you want to get into it, I can tell you why.
No, I would love to know your
yeah,
why.
so it was after a very high level government contract. It was in logistics. I was working out of Woodbridge and responsible for some very large government logistics stuff. It got pulled overnight, and I was really at a crossroads in my 40s. With lots of wins, lots of losses, lessons stacked behind me. I just knew it was that moment that I needed to bet, and I needed to bet on me. And so I started branding hustling, right? And so it was called T&K Marketing, which had no relevance other than my nephew's first initial and mine. And I just was helping very small, maybe overlooked community entrepreneurs, maybe marginalized communities that were really doing some dope stuff. It was when branding was hot and it was trending. Everyone was like, man, you got to rebrand. And I took advantage of that moment, and people had an appetite. And I hired a little designer on my team, and we were helping people redefine their brand, make it more sexy, more urban, more relevant. And that led me to the dry cleaning locker concept. So what I found out is helping other people find their identity. In that journey, I found my own.
What were some of the businesses that you were helping to rebrand?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. There was a vinyl record shop at the Metro Center. There was a chicken wing shop. It was a husband and wife. We helped them do a vinyl menu board and get their branding really hot. I did some stuff for some running council members, pro bono, to kind of get my name going. And then for the the dry cleaning locker industry, so I set out to do a service partnership with a local team that was about to launch the dry cleaning locker concept. And then I became part owner in that. And that was 13 years ago.
And so when you say you were helping them rebrand, were you creating logos for them? Were you helping them with social media? Like, what were the services that you were providing?
It's almost embarrassing, but yeah, it's kind of, I didn't know what I was doing. I was blind and just doing what I felt was right and hoping that I was offering a solution to somebody who didn't know how to get there. But it did primarily involve the rebrand, the logo, doing like a creative brief, like mood board, kind of trying to find that. I know, trying to find that.
No, I'm smiling because we have very similar stories. I was working in sales and corporate like 5 years ago now, right?
five
Yep.
years ago, and I lost my job.
Yep.
And I knew that I had a background in advertising, and I was like, similar to you, I'm going to help rebrand small businesses. And I did that. And then there was this point where I was like, but I need money. Like I lost all my benefits, and I was young. I was only like 20. I was 26, so I was off my parents' insurance. So I had to figure it out. But I got so nervous that I then went on LinkedIn and like found a job, and
Yeah.
I was doing well for the few months of like helping to rebrand businesses. But once I got my corporate job, like that, my little
Yes.
side hustle that I
Yep.
thought I was going to
Yep.
turn into something big while I was on this hiatus of work or corporate. And so I was just smiling because it was like, my next question was going to be like, well, how are you making money? And then how did you not like lose your mind and go back to corporate?
Yeah, so there was lots of dark nights. And so I'm talking like getting those one-off hits, like just getting a deposit from someone to help them begin rebranding was how I ate, and commuting. Very humble time in my life. I didn't have a lot of overhead. I wasn't a business owner fully at the time with payroll and the big responsibilities. I lived in a very modest apartment. I didn't have a vehicle, so my overhead was really low. And I wasn't married. I was single. So back to the original, how we got here, this was my last shot. This was the time to go hard, or be okay with going back to corporate America and, retiring on the vine. But
retiring on the vine.
Now
I'm like, damn, I should have.
When I tell you, like it was so grassroots, I think I get the award for boots on ground. Like I remember walking through like Ward 6, Ward 5, Ward 7, Ward 8, just going into small businesses. I'm talking liquor stores, hair salons, really pitching my service. And so
yeah, you were hustling,
and it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fear. But, back then you'd get $700, man. You thought you hit something. You thought, man, I can make it for 2 weeks.
that was a big win.
Yeah.
When we come back, the moment that led to Ken's locker concept.
How do you land in dry cleaning?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I never saw this for myself, obviously. Have zero dry cleaning background. There was a gentleman that was operating out of a laundromat in Upper Marlboro area, and he wanted to get into like technology-based solutions, so package management, like the Amazon locker concept. Yeah. And I attended a entrepreneur summit where like you see things that just haven't made it to market. It's very Jetsons like. And so the dry cleaning locker concept was being offered, and it was on the West Coast. And I was like, man, that really speaks to me, but I can't take all the credit. I had friends that were in property management, and I would hang out with them and listen to some of their struggles. And it was always around amenities, the concierge desk being overloaded between deliveries and dry cleaning and Uber and food and all of those things. And I'm like, wow, this is like the universe, talking to me. So I just, again, in that real, let's take a bet on me, I invested in some dry cleaning lockers and had a shipping container sent, not knowing what I was about to do with them. And I just set out again. I'm very familiar with boots on the ground. And I just started selling the dry cleaning locker concept to multifamily buildings by just walking in off the street, asking to meet the property manager, asking what they do for dry cleaning. Would they be interested? And so that was kind of a grind, and you realize that the front desk is the gatekeeper, and I'm not the only one going in every day. It's, overwhelmed, and they're trained to say no, and the manager's not here. So it results in a lot of business cards loading into a CRM, doing email follow-ups, and that vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And then I said, man, no, I gotta do this differently, because I was in this work smarter, not harder phase, and I was really challenging myself. And so I'm like, let's get to the building before the building's built, right? Let's be part of the design. And so I had a lot of things on my side. That DC was in a multi-family explosion. Development was at an all-time high, cranes in the sky. And I'm like, listen, that they're planning for lobby, and they're planning for furniture, and they're designing spaces. Let's test fit our dry cleaning lockers as part of the deliverable. And so I went to the developers, and I learned really quick that these guys had an appetite. There was zero noise. So they were really excited, right? Because you could like be part of a design and an amenity and a solution, which spoke to retention and leasing attraction. And so I started to get a hit, and it just continued to compound. So I just listen, sometimes it's luck, right? Maybe timing was on my side, and that's kind of how I got into it. And then I started to get, tongue in cheek with it, changing the way Daisy does laundry by way of technology. And then I learned that technology didn't speak to everybody yet, and that retail still was alive.
Right.
Not in the rural markets, but in that super niche granola grit neighborhood like DC's proud of, like the Union Markets, the Navy Yards, the City Vistas, the DuPonts, et cetera.
DuPonts. Oh yeah. I was going to say I lived in DuPont for a while, and I had my neighborhood dry cleaner, and that was
And what I learned is I had lockers in like almost every multifamily building over a course of a decade. But the margin, the number of dry cleaning orders, so something didn't really match up. So we just did some grassroots intel. We would sit in front of buildings during the prime hours of people coming home.
Yeah.
You'd watch people walk in their building and go upstairs and walk their dog, get their mail, check their packages, and then come right back out the building past our dry cleaning lockers down to the neighborhood dry cleaner. And so I'm like, oh, yikes, this is an opportunity yet again to create an all roads lead to dry, right? So by way of technology, by a galvanized retail setup, we want to meet our members at their preferred method.
Okay.
So then that's why we did this multi-service channel platform. So it just continues to compound. And the business model and the dry cleaning customer base really spoke to us. They've kind of led us. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to roll back a little bit. You said that because you were doing your own sort of case studies, it sounds like. Where were the lockers originally located when you would see people going into their homes, coming back out, and passing you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a kind of a pre-multifamily explosion where space is thought about versus a post versus a pre where buildings did not think of space. So your older buildings and around DuPont, there's a lot of older, beautiful, gorgeous buildings, but they didn't think of big lobby space for amenities, right? So in those buildings, lockers take a hit because they have to go in bike rooms or vestibules.
Yeah.
But a lot of the new construction, we're part of the lobby design. So we create that mailbox, package locker, dry cleaning locker trifecta. So the question is, it varies depending on the building. But no matter what, the residents were aware we were there. The buildings were marketing the solution heavily. We were doing pop-ups in the lobbies frequently. But it showed me that technology, while it was changing most things, it hadn't really disrupted the dry cleaning market yet. And then what it further spoke to was consumer behavior. Like dry cleaning since the beginning of time is something that you walk to the corner store. It's just robotic. You do it. You don't really ever know what you're being charged for. You just pay the $100 and you leave. And so that's what I was like, wow. So that inspired me to do retail. And I was in a very disruptive mindset in life. Like I wanted to be a disruptor. I wanted to be a unicorn. I wanted to be a pioneer. So we hired architects. I wanted no other dry cleaner like our stores. And so I'm very proud that, our design, every square foot's in concert. Everything is methodically thought out. We have local art displays in all of our dry cleaners from the community.
When we return, Ken's vision behind his dry cleaning innovation.
You talk a lot about disruption. Like this is a concept that wasn't going on, that you hadn't seen yet. Did you keep that idea to yourself, or did you have people around you that you were aligning with to help bring this to life?
Absolutely. So I'm just the face and maybe some of the idea, but it really does take a village and a big team. And that's the one thing I haven't shared this morning. I've got the most incredible team. They're like family, the infrastructure, but I really leveraged relationship, like property management, developers, architects. They were all part of this movement. And so, it could have never gotten here without that.
Yeah. You talked about the traditional dry cleaners. I think about my own experience, taking my work clothes down the street to my local dry cleaner. I couldn't even tell you how much I pay for it because I kind of just like drop it off and then go home.
Yeah. Which we love customers like you.
Yeah. So when you were coming up with like who your audience is, or what that ideal customer, that alias, I guess, looks like, how did you find that? And then also how were you in the disruption? How were you trying to set yourself apart from the traditional dry cleaners?
So dry cleaning in just general, like industry terms, is what some would argue is a dying breed. We've got the eco-friendly movement. We've got the sustainable fashion. People are wearing clothes made out of bamboo, relaxed work environments, not going to the office but a couple of days. So just industry at large, we've got to continually get creative, re-educate. And what I learned was that the traditional dry cleaner was the suit and shirt guy or gal. That was going to work every single day, along with like convenience-based demographic, right? Like people that were jazzed about convenience-based solutions. And you could argue disposable income, but I've learned that that's not such a fact. The people that really, feel the value in dry cleaning will pay for it. And then, to disrupt, I wanted to be more than a dry cleaner, right? I wanted to advance state-of-the-art technology. Like we've got personal notifications, like our technology is state-of-the-art. Our retail stores are galvanized, reimagined. I wanted to change the entire engagement on what dry cleaning looked like. But then I wanted to be like a social adherence, right? I wanted to use my platform to adhere to a social responsibility. And why can't dry cleaners do that as well? We are part of the community. We are at the street level. Next below us is the laundromat. And so it's, so disruption became through philanthropic efforts. It became through the image. It became through making dry cleaning sexy and urban and relevant and relatable, right. And educating even the younger generation that, you can dry clean your comforter, by the way. You don't have to get on top of the wash and stuff it and kick it to get it in your stackable washing machine in your apartment. And so we've had a lot of fun with that. But our consumers, it goes from the young lady that's working in hospitality to the congressman on Capitol Hill.
Yeah. What I really love about Dryy is the branding. And now that I know that that was sort of the, when you left corporate America, that was sort of how you got to where we are right now, was through branding with other businesses. When people think about brand, they oftentimes think about, a lot of times we think about just the bottom line, the money, like how we're going to position ourselves so that people use our stuff, use our product, basically. But what I really love about Dryy is the philanthropic piece, is the education. How did you, how are you building that reputation and then also giving back to your community?
Yeah, I want to be clear though, and really quick, I want to touch on two things: branding and design. None of this would have been possible, to go the right way, would have been possible without a few folks. And so Allison Cook from Court Architect over in Georgetown, they are really responsible for the retail design and all of the drip. And then they led us to an incredible group called Polygraph Creative. Gavin Wade and his team, they actually designed the brand. They helped us really create our identity, right? So without them, I would just want to make sure that I bring that to reference, because it's not just us sitting in an office with the pen. This was very thought out. It was a huge budget, and one that we were willing to take the risk to do. Philanthropic, it's, we've always done the traditional stuff like the coat drives. It's nothing easier, right? We have a bunch of dry cleaning customers that donate things all the time, and your traditional like prom dress for the underserved communities, empowering her. But it was during the pandemic that honestly, I never thought I would say that I'd had some things to be thankful for. We really didn't know. We didn't know what that was going to result. We thought we may lose everything. We went from super profound margins and historical numbers to like no income within 15 to 20 days. And there was no help guide in that. And as a new business owner, I didn't know what to do. So we made a commitment as a core team that we were going to go down with the flame. And what we learned was that people wanted to help. They didn't know how to help. So we were going to be the bridge, the conduit. I had 15 vans. I had retail stores. I was in super dense neighborhoods where there's tons of folks. So we just started doing call to actions. We teamed up with local food drive people. We were doing food post runs. We were doing gently used clothing. And that's when it really clicked on how valuable it was to be part of my community and make a real conscious effort to give back throughout the year, not just one big splash. But then what I really learned, what it really taught me was that people want to align with brands that are in line with their moral compass. And so the brand trust that we got, while I can't physically tie that to a number, like it's exponentially grown our sales by this figure, I'm confident that our sales is increased by brand trust in the community.
You talked about, and that was the perfect segue, you were talking about COVID, and how you guys went from a really successful profiting company down to almost $0 in 20 days. How do you think that the pandemic helped you catapult Dryy? How did you guys make that pivot?
Yeah, it really forced us to really look at our business model. And again, I'm big on like when there's no noise. And while everyone was super fearful and not moving around for all the right reasons, we were a little more risky. Even though the property management, the buildings, they were still building despite the climate. And so we really took advantage of a very quiet time. And we really, really went super gangster on business development. And we were expanding our footprint. Although nobody was moving around, our lockers weren't earning money, but we were getting placement, and we felt like if it ever bounced back, we'd be on the right side of things. And I would say this year it's all come true this year.
I feel like that's so interesting because when you think of a concept like dry cleaning, obviously the majority, or what we know traditionally about dry cleaning, is that people are going to work. So they're taking their work clothes to the dry cleaner. Then the pandemic happens, everybody's working from home. Yeah. And then I'm asking, how are you pivoting? And you're saying you guys went straight gangster. I just want to know, like, while other businesses were becoming more conservative, trying to hold on to the money that they had so that they could sustain their business, this fear of this unknown, it almost seems like you took this as an opportunity for growth rather than fear. Where did that come from?
It just really, I don't have a perfect answer. Like, what choice do you have, right? Like, do you just close the doors, or we're going to go down fighting till the last breath. And so, and we're pretty smart folks. Like, we've learned a lot, and I've got a great team, our interdisciplinary team. Like, we're pretty creative. Yeah. And so honestly, it just was pretty obvious. Like, it was not a lot of noise. People were still willing to develop and grow and let you partner despite nobody moving around. And there was zero laundry happening. So, we just went hard hoping for this day that we would have the bounce back. And you remember those days, it was like, we're coming out of it and we're going back in it. We're coming out of it and we're going back in it. It was just a really crazy roller coaster. But what I never wavered, was we were going to stay super consistent on business development. And why not? There was no competition. Nobody was challenging us. And so it's like, this is your town, take it. So
were one of the things that you added, was it more lockers inside of these residential apartments so that people don't have to leave their homes? Yeah.
So you're all over it. And so we created like we're good at branding, right? So a no cost, no contact solution. So lockers are at no cost. And in the moment where no contact was so profound, lockers really became, if you were not convinced, you were convinced during that time frame that they were a real solution. Like, you could still offer your residents the opportunity to get services around a no contact solution. So we took advantage of the era and the time, but it was viable. They really are a no contact solution. So we expanded, and out of the pandemic, we're now in 512 buildings, DMV wide. Yeah.
How have you seen profits grow? How have you seen business grow in that?
So when we rounded the year, with the administration change and the real demand to bring people back to work, and I want to be super cautious, there are some other things going on. So I feel like with some of the government issues, we just haven't felt it. Like, I feel like corporate and private sectors are requiring people to come back to work. And the numbers don't lie. We are truly seeing, I don't mean post-pandemic, we're seeing historical numbers in dry cleaning and piece counts, average ticket. So it is back. I don't think it's just a trend. I think people are back. And I think that, listen, this is a legislation town. So there will always be dry cleaning needs here, which is why we took our footprint from like a rural market, super dense and concentrated, to like a 5-6 mile radius of Capitol Hill.
I was reading that prior to the pandemic, you had plans of expanding the business. You wanted to take it to Baltimore and also Richmond, and then the pandemic hit, and you focused hyper local on DC. And to your point about DC being a legislative city, there's always people working in the government. There's always people, dressed in business attire that are going to need your services. Are you happy with the decision that you stuck with remaining local?
let's be clear. I mean, as you grow a brand, I mean, ultimately everyone's dream one day, I think, is to scale, go vertical, and maybe franchise and sell licensure agreements, et cetera. And I think of all branding, I think Dryy is very capable of doing that. The problem that happens is that you have to remember the business model. It is a labor intense, super human involved day to day. And you have to control the quality. And when you start to outsource, and we've had tons of examples on the dry cleaning outsource model not working. That being said, you're right. We really felt that we need to expand. We were in with the developers, having 4 stores. We know a few developers in retail, and they were giving us opportunities to come to both Baltimore and Richmond. And we felt like that was far enough, but close enough to define scalable, but yet we could still service it from a centralized eco cleaning facility here in Northern Virginia. I will say, if there's anything I have to be thankful for, it's that did not happen, because it really did make us relook at who we were, and we really determined being a real hyper local solution to the DMV, DC proper, just maybe 7-8 miles outside of it, was a better footprint for us. And we could be a better solution at all times. So I'm not a scalable guy. I learned that very quickly. But, listen, maybe one day Dryy is on a scalable platform through some sort of acquisition. Who knows? But
I think that that's really great for the listeners to hear too, because you're right. Like, I feel like everyone's goal, or what they say, is like, okay, you get to a certain point in your business, it's time to grow, it's time to scale, it's time to get different owners and different teams and all of that. And I feel like sometimes just focusing on keeping the main thing, tends to work out in the long run.
Yeah.
I would love to know, is there anything that has surprised you lately about the business, about the customer base, or where the business is going in general?
Yeah, I think that we're going to have a good, strong run, 5-7 years. I don't know where we're going to go with like work schedules. The biggest thing is the relaxed environments at work. Like, people are going to work in like leisure wear now. I mean, and
yes,
they really are. And so I
Yeah.
love that, by the way, but I don't like it so much for the business model. But right now we're in a good streak. I'm going to just take it, 1 year at a time. I think that dry cleaning is back, especially in the DC region. The politics here on getting people back to work took a very long time. But I do think that you will see less and less mom and pop shops. That's obviously already taken place. I think you're going to see that even be more dramatic. And I think in the next 10 years in most major markets, you will see a strong A and a strong B player. Because operating costs are up. Labor's never been more difficult to reach. I mean, there's just so many things against the small business just to be sustainable. So you're going to need investors in big pockets, and, the husband and wife team, or, whatever the team, is going to really struggle. So
I really like talking to you, and I really love your concept and your idea behind Dryy. I think you're making dry cleaning sexy in a way that it never really has been. And I think that it's so encouraging for people that are aspiring entrepreneurs listening to this, that sometimes it's not the sexy idea or the sexy business model that's really going to grow. The businesses, like, I don't know, like cargo or train tracks or dry cleaning, or like these like sort of like recession proof, like, you know what I'm trying to say. But I feel like more people need to hear that, of like, people are going back to work now.
They are.
People are going to need your services for dry cleaning. And with your background of helping other businesses rebrand, you're able to still have that creative and like that sort of like trendy like idea or business model while sticking to like more of a traditional business idea. Has there been what's been like your biggest lesson that you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Gosh, probably to always understand your market, understand finances. And if you don't, bring somebody along that does. Don't be afraid to continue reinventing. I mean, it's just all the things that you hear, they really are true, but predominantly is just to be resilient, right? Like, be resilient, don't give up. And, I get people are making it big quicker than it took me, but I don't think there's any shortcut. I think that you really just have to grind. And if you're not built for the grind, then it may not be for you.
I really like that you touched on that, and we talked about that a little bit when we were speaking
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah.
This instant gratification, I think, especially social media, is such a liar when it comes to this.
Yes.
But you see people online, and you don't see the behind the process or the years that it took to get someplace. And I think it just speaks, your story speaks to like the patience and then the really hard work that it takes to get to where we are now.
I talk to young folks all the time because I love that. And I love that, and again, the branding and people are really wanting to know how it came of. And I love talking about the model and what it took. And it really is profound that these younger folks, and I love the dreaming, I love having vision. These young folks they had more than I had at their age, but they do want it overnight. I've got friends that want to be commercial developers. They want to have a team. They want to have 50 salespeople under them in like 2 years. And it really is just far-fetched. Well, yeah, people always ask me how I did it, and I love being asked that. It means it's resonating and people are inspired by it. But, I'm probably not the best person because I didn't follow a playbook. I just worked really hard. I stayed super passionate. And as my dad would say, I just locked in. My advice, I don't know, get laser focused on product market fit, build a strong squad. I can't reiterate that enough.
Yeah.
Always know your numbers, bring someone along who does if you don't, and be relentlessly resilient. And there's just no shortcuts, and it really does result in just grind.
Yeah. How do you build a team culture?
Yeah, man, there is no secret sauce for that. Mine's pretty simple. I want people to want to be here. I want to create an opportunity to make the necessary money to support their families. I want people to feel stable. We just have a no make wrongs culture. Like, we don't make wrong here. Like, we make mistakes, right? We do every single day, but we get 50,000 things right. And so we focus on all the right, and we use all of the wrong to be teaching moments. We're very supportive. We team build. We offer growth opportunities. We offer housing purchase opportunities. Awesome. We do sponsorship. We do a lot of sponsorship. Yeah. So we have an eco-friendly ecosystem here. Yeah.
I love that. And what is your vision for Dryy over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, to continue changing the way DC does laundry. I think that's a real safe space. And I think that with the market back, I don't know that we really know. If you remember, we launched this brand just like 8 months before the pandemic. Like, we were already in the business, but we had no brand equity.
Yeah.
So we really don't know what its capabilities really are. But what I can tell you is what it's doing today is really exciting. And I feel like that pandemic gave us a time to really define identity. And that's really be known as a trusted source, someone who really cares, but also cares at offering great dry cleaning services and education.
Lastly, is there anything new coming up? Any new tech features or partnerships, service upgrades, anything that you can share?
We're, we have we've recently upgraded our technology. We do look to blend some of our integration between our locker systems and our retail. That's a little more behind the scenes stuff, but we're working on that. We're evolving with like some review outreach on our services. We want to be a little more hands-on with our consumer, just with some, personalized messaging, like maybe on the 5th visit, just little touch points that we're known to do. I want to continue evolving and never get complacent. But our philanthropic platform, I think, is just on fire. This year we launched a dry run 5K, to play on the dry run. It starts in Union Market every June. This year it's June 21st. We're teaming up with a local ambassador for the women's football team, Lois Cook of DC Divas, and her platform on Do It For Her, Empower Her, Cleats for Her. And so we're raising money to support 13 DC public schools this year for the women's flag football. We learned that some of them don't have the proper wear. So we are $18,000, 275 cleats, and we will get that done.
No, I love that. Ken, this was awesome. Thank you so
Yep.
much for sharing your story, the logistics and everything behind what goes into this brand, and really inspiring others to modernize traditional industries. Don't be afraid of going outside of the box. And I just have really appreciated our conversation today.
Thanks for being a bright idea, Amber.
Thank you. How can people find you?
DRYYDC on Instagram, Ken at drydc.com. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn, or www.dry with 2 Y's, dc.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ken, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
That's it for this week's episode of A Bright Idea. Today's guest was Ken Sandy of Dryy. If you would like to support Dryy or would like to know how you can use their services, you can go to their website at DRYDC. That's DRYYDC.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us bring on more stories like Dryy. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at A Bright Idea Podcast for updates. And if there's a topic or a guest you'd like to hear from next, drop us a message. If you would like to support the show directly, you can donate to our Cash App at A Bright Idea Podcast. This show was brought to you by my editor, Chris Kramer, and all of our social media was done by Shekinah Henderson. Until next time, I'm Amber Key.